Aloha and welcome to Rise by the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. My name is Ashley Nagaoka. I'm a proud Japanese American, and it's an honor to be your host this evening. JCCH is supported by an awesome volunteer board of directors. Our board members support the JCCH in various areas, including organizing tonight's event. We'd like to welcome Rise co-chairs Jamie Oliveira Kinoshita and Kurt Osaki for a few words.
Good evening and welcome to the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii 2021 Hybrid Annual Dinner. My name is Kurt Osaki and this is Jamie Kinoshita, and we are the co-chairs for this year's event. It's been a difficult year for everyone, and we appreciate you being here to support the center and honor great individuals and organizations in our community. Our theme for this year's event is Rise: Responsibility, Integrity, Strength, and Empowerment. And tonight we honor members of our community who have exemplified these values in their leadership over the last year. Tonight's honorees faced the challenges of the previous year head on and were there for our community when we needed them most. And they continue to lead us going forward. We honor these individuals and organizations for their fearless ability to just do the right thing in the face of adversity and harsh criticism. For their leadership, we express our kansha, our deepest gratitude.
Tonight is a first for JCCH, a hybrid event. Right now, our responsibility and integrity level sponsors are enjoying a small in-person event at our ballroom upstairs, catered by Chef Paul Matsumoto and the Pili Group. Our strength and empowerment sponsors and individual supporters received at-home delivery meals catered by MW Restaurant, Chef Chai, and delivered by Elite Parking. All of our supporters are enjoying a custom truffle set from Chocolea as well. Thank you again for your continued support of the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii, and we hope you enjoy this evening's program. Keep rising and supporting one another. Thank you.
Mahalo to Kenny Endo and the Taiko Center of the Pacific for those awesome performances. Proceeds from tonight's events will support JCCH programs, the JCCH mission of strengthening our diverse Hawaii community by educating present and future generations in our evolving Hawaii Japanese American experience. We thank all of our sponsors and supporters, without whom none of this would be possible. Our responsibility sponsor, Island Insurance Foundation, and the Waihata Foundation. Our integrity sponsors, BEAR, Central Pacific Bank Foundation, First Hawaiian Bank, Kamehameha Schools, and Southwest Airlines. Our strength sponsors, and our empowerment sponsors. Also, mahalo to all of our other supporters who participated in tonight's event and are tuning in from home. For a complete list of our sponsors and donors, please visit jcch.com/rise2021. We also have an online silent auction that's live. You can also find links to our silent auction at jcch.com/rise2021. The silent auction closes at 6:30 p.m., so go ahead and bid away. We'll post the links in the chat for those at home. At this time, we'd like to play a brief message from our responsibility sponsor, Island Insurance.
There will be moments of triumph. There will be times of calm. There will be setbacks you never saw coming. Life doesn't always move in a straight line. But for over 80 years, Island Insurance has been helping people recover from the unexpected. Because the best way to keep moving forward is to get back on your feet. Island roots, island values, Island Insurance.
Mahalo again to all our sponsors and supporters. It's time to introduce our honorees. Our RISE honorees are awarded for their applied leadership and management skills to the community, public service, and business while exemplifying core values like integrity, responsibility, and aloha. Our first honoree is Every1ne Hawaii. This group of volunteers took early and quick action last March, activating their network to provide support as the COVID-19 pandemic reached our shores. Between mass distributions, online pauhana, and voter registrations, Every1ne Hawaii did it all in 2020. Please meet Keone Williams of Every1ne Hawaii.
So my name is Keone Williams, born and raised here in Manoa, Honolulu. I went to Roosevelt and then continued to UH Manoa. Every1ne Hawaii is a 501c3 nonprofit that's really fueled by a network of Hawaii's emerging leaders and influencers and creatives. What we share is this sense of kuleana, or duty, for this place that we call home. Initially, that sense of duty or kuleana was manifested in this effort to energize our next generation to get more civically engaged here in Hawaii and in our community. That means voter registration, participating in the census, making sure that you are choosing who you want to be an elected official, and ensuring that these elected officials stay accountable to what they promised to the people who brought them into office. So that was the initial focus of Every1ne Hawaii, but when the COVID pandemic stepped up, we leveraged our existing networks and connections to pivot to help Hawaii address this pandemic. Initially, that was through a mask effort. We were very fortunate to partner with the private sector and local businesses to secure funding to purchase 2 million face masks from China that Hawaiian Airlines was able to charter a plane on our behalf for such purposes while not flying anywhere else in the world, just to fly a direct route to China and transport these 2 million masks here back to Hawaii. And those masks, we partnered with the City and County of Honolulu, and we were able to distribute over 2 million masks here in Hawaii, just at the same time that the mask mandates were being brought into force with the City and County, and then at the state level under the governor's orders. So that's kind of the basis of how we came to be, but really at the core of Every1ne Hawaii is this sense of kuleana and wanting to get our generation activated and participating in civically engaged discourse and just caring about our community and the future. Everyone on the team is born and raised here in Hawaii, from Hanabata days until now. Our connections are not just friends, but family, calabash cousins throughout the state and beyond. Being born and raised in Hawaii instills in one this sense of kuleana, this sense of duty. And for our team, it wasn't this burdensome kuleana, a duty to serve because so-and-so said, but it came out of a more organic, just duty in the sense of privilege. We were privileged to be born and raised here in Hawaii. We're privileged to have these networks, and also the fact that the community would trust us to leverage hundreds of volunteers in this capacity. That doesn't just happen with just anyone. People need to trust you, and to earn people's trust, that takes time, that takes investment, and that takes effort. So it really is a privilege to have this kuleana to serve our community in this capacity, and this love that our community has for us is reciprocated and really drives us forward.
JCCH felt that it was important to recognize Every1ne Hawaii. When disasters happen and situations change, I think it's really easy to concentrate on yourself, your own well-being and your family and things like that, which is also important. But these individuals really stepped up and thought about the community with their actions, really important causes, and really important to recognize what they did and what they will be doing in the future as well.
Our hopes for the future of Hawaii have not changed, and we're energizing ourselves to take the next step. And for Every1ne Hawaii, that's actually going back to what we wanted to do initially, what our shared motivations are, and most likely going to manifest in a Rock the Vote kind of event in 2022, where we can once again gather in person, have live music, bring us all together as a next generation, and get engaged, get registered to vote, participate in these things that bolster the strength of the institutions and the systems that ensure our community can thrive. So that's what we're looking forward to as Every1ne Hawaii, serving our community and getting our next generation involved in creating a better future for our state.
Mahalo Keone and the Every1ne Hawaii team for all that you continue to do for our community. Our next honoree is Kamehameha Schools. Lack of access to broadband internet is a known issue for rural communities, but became glaringly apparent as students learned from home and as kupuna accessed telehealth services. Closing the digital divide is just one of Kamehameha Schools' efforts in a year of rapid change for the education sector. Please welcome Kale Kailihiwa of Kamehameha Schools.
A lesser-known fact about Kamehameha Schools is beyond our campuses, beyond our preschools and scholarship programs, we also have a very robust presence in communities across the state of Hawaii. We've been in key communities for over 50 years, but over the last 5 years, we've doubled down on being visible and present in our communities across Hawaii, from Hawaii Island all the way to Kauai. So that's uniquely positioned the community strategies team of Kamehameha Schools. When COVID-19 first hit our shores, we were able to mobilize quickly, we were able to mobilize decisively, and most importantly, we were able to mobilize in partnership with the people and organizations who serve our communities. We've helped on a number of fronts that include food and PPE distribution. We've helped with digital access to help support learning and health. We helped with overall community well-being, and we also helped with mental health and safety measures. This has looked and felt different across the communities that we found ourselves working in. For food and PPE distributions, we were able to mobilize our facilities and people in the community quickly and did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of food distributions together with partners, with other community centers, with health centers, with our public school system, and even one of the honorees here today, Every1ne Hawaii, helped us access PPE, and we were able to serve as a distribution point in some of the more remote communities across Hawaii. We also worked hard early on with our public education counterparts and our telecommunication providers here in Hawaii to understand strategies that would help us be able to develop programs and opportunities that would close the digital divide in light of the looming accessibility issues that we were seeing coming our way. We partnered quickly with Hawaii Kids Can, with AT&T, with T-Mobile to brainstorm options to get Wi-Fi signal pushed out to our remote communities. In some cases, we fixed Wi-Fi routers on vans. In other cases, we put these routers on churches, all with the intent to help the community members, the families, and the haumana in our communities access a Wi-Fi signal so that they could take care of the learning and health needs that they had without putting themselves in danger. In terms of community well-being, again, we learned important lessons and opened ourselves up to innovation. And so we had programs at our learning centers that offered Hawaiian language, that offered cultural connections and financial literacy. And on a good day before COVID got here, I'd be happy with 50 families. But because of the technology we were able to harness and some of the Wi-Fi work we were able to engage in, I started to get happy with more and more families, 150, 250. And soon families from across the state and even the world were patching into some of our classes. And even in our more rural communities like Hawaii, we were able to refurbish entire conference rooms and outfitted it to serve the digital learning needs of our public education counterparts there. We were able to create that space that in such a way that supported podcasting, the development of digital content for public education teachers.
Early on, Kamehameha Schools mobilized quickly to support communities statewide, whether it was through partnerships with Waihata and Mayor Kawakami for food distribution and dispersing technology for remote learning. They also partnered with Every1ne Hawaii to distribute masks at a time when inventory was scarce. Kamehameha Schools stands out as an organization deeply rooted in its kuleana to Hawaii's children. Whether it's empowering Hawaiian learners of all ages with world-class educational opportunities, providing communities with a collaborative space, or being a collaborative neighbor to JCCH. When it comes to education, Kamehameha Schools not only provides keiki with the right educational tools to grow, but it also serves as a change agent, paving the way for Hawaii students to be recognized on a global scale. Mahalo Kamehameha Schools for your continued effort in bettering Hawaii.
The one thing that I hope you know about Kamehameha Schools in the community is that partnership is at the heart of it. There is unity in our community, and that point isn't lost on us. And if we stand shoulder to shoulder with the families who are raising children in our communities and the partners we find there, we have a greatest chance of achieving the capability and well-being that we want for all of Hawaii. There was a time not too long ago where I thought we were on the road to recovery and rebuilding, and yet we find ourselves in times that seem even more challenging. I believe that our current condition does not have to be our future conclusion. And how we're able to impact that, how we're able to change that, is to do that side by side, shoulder to shoulder with one another in this community. And so it's a distinct honor and privilege for me to stand here on behalf of Kamehameha Schools in recognition of the partnership and friendship that we have with the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii, its board, its staff, and most importantly, the community behind this incredible resource. To say mahalo and aloha. Also contagious is kindness, laughter, good attitude, and most importantly, hope. And so the kindness, the hope, the laughter, and friendship that we realize with all of you is precious, is sacred, and that's going to be our key for a thriving Hawaii.
Mahalo Kale and Kamehameha Schools. Before we move on, this is a reminder that the silent auction will be closing soon. A big mahalo to Herb Ota Jr. for that beautiful rendition of Sonoy. Our next honoree is Waihata Limited. Hawaii's food security vulnerabilities were exposed with the COVID-19 pandemic. Many families found themselves without work or income and without food. Waihata, a local food distributor, was one of the many organizations that stepped up to feed our community. Through food distribution donations and supporting organizations like Malama Meals, Waihata was able to support many people in need. Waihata also adapted their business to serve their customers in the safest way possible. Please welcome Russell Hata of Waihata Limited.
Aloha family, friends, associates, and fellow honorees. Welcome to my home, Chef Zone. This was started in 2015 to help service the food service community. So I've been involved with the family company from a small kid, being a family company summer times, weekends and whatnot, I would come over and work. But my first full real job was as a janitor in high school. I was making $3.50 an hour when the minimum wage was $1.50. That's how old I am. So Waihata started in 1913 by my grandfather, Yoichi Hata, the namesake of Waihata. And from Hilo, we moved to Oahu about 1938. My oldest uncle Minoru came here. I took over in 1991 when the company was really having a tough time. We didn't change with the times and everything. I came in to turn the company around. I ended up leaving in about 2000. I went off to pursue an MBA and also got married, had a child, and do some things on my own. When I returned to Waihata in 2008, I ended up looking at the areas that we're in the food service industry, and we were in the areas that were declining. So when I did some studying and realized cash and carry stores was the fastest growing areas, I decided to do a cash and carry store, and we ended up naming it Chef Zone. Well, when the pandemic started in March 2020, I realized pretty quick that this is going to be here for a while, and it's basically a turnaround situation. So I got the management team together and said, we got to go line item by line item and bring down the expenses as much as possible. Once we did all that, then we said, okay, we got to look at creative ways to go out and build sales. So we ended up doing a whole bunch of things. We did the chef box where we packed food for people to buy and take home. We went out into the community to actually sell food. We did a number of different things. So during the pandemic, I told our team that we really got to go help Hawaii and the community. We donated food to the East-West Center, the Pantry, Aloha Harvest, Salvation Army, Hawaii Food Bank, in total about 150,000 pounds. We also launched a chef box. We have a couple chefs on staff, and we had them cook lunches for the first responders and the hospitals.
The values of Waihata & Company and the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii are deeply aligned. Some of Waihata's core values include honoring their partner organizations, living and giving aloha, and continuous improvement. Through all of their efforts during the pandemic, Waihata showed the values of sekinen, or kuleana, a deep responsibility to their team and our local community, and gambari, steadfastness and persistence during adversity. For these reasons and many more, we are pleased to honor Waihata & Company this evening for their contributions to our local community. A big mahalo to Waihata & Company for all they do for the local community here in Hawaii. Mahalo.
Waihata owes so much to the community for their support throughout the years, in fact decades, that we wanted to go out and help as many organizations as possible. Serving the community is a way to give back and obviously makes everyone in the company feel good. But one of my missions is to help the future of Hawaii, to make Hawaii a better place to live for our keikis and our keikis. So it's really fulfilling to go out and help the community. You know, if we ever come out of this pandemic, which may never happen, I think it's going to be with us for a long while, I hope that Waihata can get strong enough to not only help the Ohana members, the employees of the company live a better life, but really the whole purpose is to help the community and the future of Hawaii.
Mahalo Russell and the Waihata family for continuing to support our community. Our final honoree hails from my home island of Kauai. Mayor Derek Kawakami exemplifies leadership in times of crisis. Mayor Kawakami took early and decisive action, putting his community's safety above everything else. His administration's actions kept Kauai from having major outbreaks and allowed them to reopen earlier than expected. We also got to see a personal side of the mayor as he engaged with social media followers by joining in the Stay Safe at Home experience with his community. Please welcome Mayor Derek Kawakami.
Thanks, Ash. And once again, Ashley Nagaoka, proud Kauai girl representing Kauai at the big dance. Thank you for having me. Look, here I am at Zoom. I think this is what we're all used to by now. Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored. You know, from the get-go, we knew that every single decision we made came with a set of consequences. There was no decision that government was going to make that didn't have a negative impact in some way, shape, or form. You know, my wife Monica comes from a family of educators. She herself is a 6th grade middle school teacher at Kapaa Middle School. And the first thing she said, you know, some of these kids are gonna be stuck at home. And, you know, we just had enacted a curfew at 9 o'clock. You know, her first thought is, how can I connect to my kids and help take their minds off of all the stressful situations? Understanding that everything was going to be magnified. If a kid was in a house that the parents were in a rocky relationship, that was going to get magnified. All of society's big challenges were all going to get magnified. So she said, look, can we like do some arts and crafts so that these kids have some way of connecting with us and just seeing us and knowing that we're there. You know, the first thing we did is we did one on board games because we didn't know what to do. The second episode we did, I think we were baking cookies. And the third episode we did, and it actually, I think was before, you know, masks became a thing, I got out there to do a tutorial on how people can make their own masks. Something that my wife thought of and my daughter was very much a part of became a rallying cry to let people know, like, yeah, there's a curfew. You know, I'm here with all of you in my house, you know, before 9 o'clock. And it just became every single night of that curfew, we were putting something out. And I would come home from work, and I remember my wife and daughter would be waiting there, like, all right, this is tonight's Stay Home Koi. And I'd look at them and say, like, my God, what are you guys trying to do to me? Like, isn't there something easier? That period during the pandemic brought my family closer together, and I feel it brought me closer to members of our community that really turned to those little weird, funky, goofy, nerdy things that we were doing closer together as well. And it helped us get through that period of time. I got a debt to pay. I got a debt to pay to this island. I got a debt to pay to all the generations that came before me. When you take a look at like the 442 generation, if they hadn't done what they had done with the rallying cry of Kodomo no Tameni, right? For the sake of the children, I don't know if a person like me could ever eventually become a mayor. And I was always taught from my family that there's going to be times in my life where I will have the opportunity to repay debt to generations that came before me and to the island, and that I have to be able to recognize quickly when those opportunities arise and start the process of repaying that debt. I owe so much to Kauai, to the state, to our people, to the generations that came before me, to the generations that's gonna come after me. And I feel tremendously honored to have this opportunity to serve and start to repay what I owe.
You know, I look at Mayor Kawakami as a leader, especially in this past year. You know, I'm a business owner, so this last year was not easy. And believe me, a lot of decisions that he made was not easy based on how it affect businesses. The fact that he went forward 100%, made a decision and moved forward. You know, as a leader, I see someone that does not necessarily just follow. What I really respect about the mayor is his commitment towards families, not just his own, but also the community as his family. You know, I had the honor of knowing his father, and I know how he really respects family. I'm always inspired by his respect for the past, but also his big vision for the future. You know, he takes it very seriously in terms of sekinen, in terms of responsibility. And that's what I think makes a good leader and what makes Mayor Kawakami a great leader.
Got involved in government at a relatively young age because I didn't like government. And I decided to become an elected official because I didn't like elected officials. And I oftentimes think with so much at stake and with the heavy responsibility that elected leaders have, we should change the way the conversation happens. And the first question is, let's start identifying things that we can absolutely agree on. Let's start small. Let's go pick the low-hanging fruit. Let's go get the fruit that's easy to pick. And let's start on the small things that we absolutely can agree on, because it's through that we'll start to create relationships and trust. If we always start with what we disagree on and where our differences are, it is going to be hard to build a relationship and trust. I really think that all elected officials need to change the way the conversations happen out the gate, especially with those that have different viewpoints, and somehow humble ourselves to say, let's start off with the low-hanging fruit. Let's start off with the small stuff. Of course, what I hope to see is some healing. As leaders, we're going to have to be even more patient, compassionate, understand that everybody is our people, that we gotta give our best effort to bring people together. That's my hopes and dreams.
Mahalo, Mayor Kawakami. At this time, I'd like to welcome JCCH President and Executive Director Nate Gyotoku for some closing remarks.
Aloha mai kako and mahalo for joining us for our inaugural RISE event. The JCCH's mission of strengthening our diverse Hawaii community begins with the shared community values that we all strive to embody. While our AJA community uses words like sekinen for responsibility, giri for duty, and gise for sacrifice, the ideas that these words represent reach beyond just Japanese Americans and lives in the actions of all of us, regardless of ethnicity and race. Our honorees, Every1ne Hawaii, Kamehameha Schools, Waihata, and Mayor Kawakami, are leaders who embodied all of our kachikan values in their actions and remain an example for Hawaii of what can be. As we move forward into an unknown future, these values that are shared by all of us must be what guides us through this journey. This compass, passed down through generations of our families and refined by our neighbors, is what the JCCH strives to strengthen as we impact the next generation of our island community. Mahalo to our sponsors, supporters, members, and volunteers for the continued support. Mahalo to our RISE committee and partners that made tonight's event possible. And mahalo to all of our honorees for leading by example and through action. Malama pono and mahalo for joining us tonight.
Mahalo, Nate. This brings our program to a close. We hope that you enjoyed meeting some of the groups and individuals that exemplify cultural values like sekinen or responsibility and giri or duty that the JCCH carries on in its mission. We'd like to thank all of the supporters who helped us with tonight's event. A big mahalo to the Pili Group and Elite Parking who coordinated all of the logistics for tonight's event. We'd also like to thank Chef Paul Matsumoto, MW Restaurant and Chai's for providing tonight's catering services. We sincerely hope that everyone enjoyed this at-home gala. We'd also like to thank Kenny Endo and the Taiko Center of the Pacific and Herb Ota Jr. for providing wonderful music for our program, and also to Craig Hara and the Creative Juice team for putting this all together. We hope you enjoyed tonight's Rise event. Please visit jcch.com for more information about JCCH programs and events. Mahalo for joining us and take care.
Preview.